Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd take a look at this. Now, believe it or not, this is a little amplifier kit that I bought all the way back in 2012. It was just a cheap, based on TDA2030 ICs. It's a little just stereo amplifier module just with a volume control on it. And I think at the time it was like the cheapest kit you could buy, and there's a reason behind that. Anyway, I picked one up back then, and I'll open it now. I mean, obviously I've opened it in the past. Actually, believe it or not, I actually completely forgot about this thing. I was looking for something in one of my desk drawers, and I found this right at the bottom, and I couldn't remember what it was, and then when I opened it, I suddenly twigged on me. Anyway, that's what's spurred this video on. Let's open it up. And it was really cheap, as in I think like under £5 kind of cheap. And there's the dear valued customer. Not very valued. Anyway, yeah, so this is the kit that we got. I think it's all pretty much there. We get quite a reasonable little PCB. It's only phenolic resin, single-sided, but everything you need. It's quite nicely laid out. Quite a nice size as well for mounting in a project. Get all the components. Nice little heat sinks for the ICs. Very lightweight, but to be honest, this thing's not a lot of power. It's like 10 watts max or something like that, so they're probably absolutely fine. And you do get two nice little heat sinks. All the components you'd need, and even the board is nicely silk screened. You've got R11, R10, C6, C8, so we know where all the parts are. There's only one problem. Where's the build sheet? And this was what I found back when I originally bought this thing. Basically, they supplied these things, like I said, with a lovely silk screen board and everything, but with references on it rather than values printed on it. So you need a reference sheet, a build sheet, to actually put this thing together. And they never came with one. Now, I remember back when I bought it, I got back on eBay and tried to contact the seller, and as happened a lot back then, as soon as I looked into it, no longer a registered eBay user. So basically, I think they'd realised they'd made a mistake. They'd sent a load of these out with out the instructions, and rather than solve the problem, they just shut up shop and probably opened under a different name. But yeah, so I stuck it back in the bag, and like I said, I completely forgot about it, and this is what, 11 years later. I remember back when I actually got it, I did have a look online to see if I could track down a build sheet for it, and I couldn't back then. When I refound this last week, I actually went and had a look online, and amazingly I actually found a website kind of dedicated to building this, and on it I actually managed to print out the build sheet. So finally, after 11 years, I can actually put this amplifier together, and I can see whether it actually sounds any good, whether it's actually going to be any use or not. So I thought that's what we'd do in this video. So like I said, I think I've got everything here that's meant to be in the kit. So now I've got a build sheet. To be honest, most of the parts I could figure out exactly where they went, like the diodes, most of the capacitors I could figure out where they went, obviously the ICs, the potentiometer, connectors, everything like that I could figure out. What I couldn't figure out is the resistors and a few of the capacitors, which are different values, but that's what really snookered me. Otherwise, like I said, I did try just doing it myself, but unfortunately, like I said, that wasn't possible with having everything missing. Right, what we'll do first, I think, is we'll put the smallest components on the board first. We can start with the diodes, actually. and nicely, like I said, there's only 4 diodes. This thing takes 12 volts thereabouts. I think between 12 and like 18 volts it can take in AC there. It does all the rectification on board. Like I say, it is actually quite a nice little module for various projects and purposes. We'll start by populating these diodes. So make sure we've got our stripe in the right way. We've got 2 that way round. Let me get you zoomed down a little bit so you can see more what I'm actually doing. There we go, that's better, isn't it? Right. Anyway, I've got all the diodes. I did check through this thing previously and made sure, oh excuse me, that it did have all the components needed, and I think it is there. I mean, if we're missing a resistor or something, it's no biggie. I've got plenty of resistors, diodes, everything we'd need if there is something missing, but I think it's pretty much there. That looks okay. Last diode. That goes in that way around. Let's push those in. We'll flip that round. Put it flat on the thing. Right, let's get some solder. I'm using quite a thick solder here because it's fairly basic stuff. This, we don't need to go micro fine or anything. I could possibly gone with a bit finer tip on my a bit bigger tip on my soldering iron as well, but this will do. Let's just start soldering these parts in place. One. 2, 3, 4. Okay, spin that round. Something like this is actually a really good kit as if you want to get into electronics and want to have a practice at soldering and stuff. A kit like this is actually, you can't see what I'm doing there, can you? Sorry. A kit like this is actually a really good one to start with, because everything's nice and big, providing you do have the sheet. It's actually really easy to put together as well. Right, we'll snip those off. Fly across the workshop, never to be found again, most of them, but never mind. That's the only problem when you're building stuff like this, it's cleaning all the legs up afterwards. There we go, that's okay. So that's the first lot of components in there, nice and flat. Right, let's start with these resistors. So we'll have to bear over to the sheet now. So we've got 100k is R1, R2, R3, R5, R7, R8, R9 and R11. Well, there's our 100k's. So let's start putting those in place. So we've got R1. Let's move this around so we can see which one it is. That's R1 there. Then we've got R2 and R3, which are the ones next to it. They have at least marked up the tags which resistors are which. So that's R2 in there. R3. Then we've got R5 and R7. where's R5? R5's there. R7. And then R8, which is R8, R9, which is these two here. And then finally R11. Now where is R11? There's R11. Okay, there we go. So that's all the 100k resistors in place. So we'll flip that over. And with it being a nice flat board and we're still working on the components, that'll pretty much hold them in place. Let me move this up a little bit so you can see me soldering. There we go, that looks a little bit better, doesn't it? Right. And we'll solder these in place. Now, I'm not going to bother skipping any of this, so if you're bored by watching me solder, just skip the video ahead until I'm doing something else. But some people enjoy watching just like ASMR, and watching people solder things together. Okay, spin that round. We had a bit of a cold joint there. I just caught it before I moved on though. There we go. Then just warm that one back up and we'll get them snipped off. And we got them all? Yeah. Okay, there we go. That's all those snipped off. That's all those resistors in. Let's move on to the next one. So we've got 4.7k, which is R4 and R10. So let's have a look what we've got left resistor wise. That one's marked up as 4.7k there. So that was those two resistors. And what did we say there was? That is R4 and R10. So we've got R4 there. And we've got R10 there. Okay, let's get those soldered into place. If you do it like this and you just go one value at a time, it's less likely you're going to get confused and put the wrong component in the wrong place. Okay, and we'll snip them off. There we go. Then we've got our last lot of resistors, which are our 222 ohm resistors. So these two. and those are R6 and R12. And there's only 2 resistor holes left on the whole board, which are these 2 here, so that is R6 and that is R12 there, well, the other way around anyway. We'll spin them over and we'll get them soldered into place. Okay, that should do. There we go. That's all the resistors now in place. So a quick clean up. Try not to brush any of the components that we actually need away. Right, now let us put on the small capacitors here. They're all the same value. We've got C5, C10 and C12 marked 104, which is at 0.01 or something like that, I think. They're all exactly the same, so we've got as we just said, C5, C10, so that's C5 there, C10 there, and C12 is that one there. So let's get that over. Again, the board will pretty much, because those are the highest thing on the board, they will pretty much hold themselves in place. There we go. They look fine. We can just snip them legs off. There we go. So that's those first capacitors in board. Right, now let's move on to the smallest of these electrolytic capacitors, because those will be the next highest thing on the board. And those are rated at, let's have a look there, those are 4.7 UF, so let's have a look on the sheet. 4.7 UF is C1 and C6. You know, obviously these are polarized capacitors, so we need to make sure they go in the board the right way around. That's C1 there, and we can notice it's got the plus part marked on the silk screen, so we'll make sure that the negative goes to the shaded area there. That is C1, and the other one was another 4.7, which we said was C6. So let's have a look along here. That's C6 is that one there. Get that in the board. Okay, there we go. We'll solder those in place. Okay, there we go. That one's a little bit high, so what we'll do, we'll just hold it with our finger and we'll just re-warm up the solder and just slip it down the board a little bit like that, so it sits a little bit flatter. And then we can snip those legs off. There we go. Okay, it's starting to look like something now. Now, I'm not actually going to put the other capacitors on yet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put these on because they're the next highest thing really on the board. So, we have one that goes there, snaps on the board like that, and then we have two. Let's go on this side here, and those are our speaker outputs. So basically we've got AC in on that side, and we've got two speaker outside on that side with proper little screw terminals. Again, for what this kit cost when I bought it, and I'm sure it was under £5. I think it was like the cheapest little stereo amplifier kit that I could find on eBay at the time. It's got some nice little, you know, little bits like that. Okay, I've got myself some more solder before I burn my fingers. Okay, sorry about that. The camera decided to shut off on me. Never mind, you haven't missed anything. We literally just got to where we'd got to. Right, let's finish off putting these on. We can carry on. I don't know, it is rather warm at the moment. In fact, it's some of the hottest temperatures we've had in a while. I mean, I'm not complaining, it's actually lovely, but I'm wondering if it is affecting various electrical items, because I know my phone isn't happy at the moment. My phone keeps complaining about the heat. Okay, that's them ones in, and oh yeah, that one there. Okay, right. So those are all in. Now, next largest part, I think, really, is these electrolytic capacitors here. And those are all 47 UF. We have 4 of them. So it's fairly obvious where they go. From this point on, we really don't need the build sheet. It was really just those resistors that had stumped me, and you know, some of these capacitors, but now we know which ones those are, and these are all the same value. It's pretty easy to figure out where everything goes. 2, 3, last one. 4, right, let's put those. I don't know, these are not going to be brilliant capacitors, they're not exactly Nishikon or anything like that, but again, for what this kit cost, you really can't complain too much. Right, let's get these soldered in place. Spin that round, we'll get the other side. Okay, we'll get those snipped off. And I will keep some of these legs, at least the ones I can find, because I do need to restock my leg drawer, because they're incredibly useful for making up broken traces when you're doing corrosion damage repair. Right, so that's all those capacitors in. Let's put these 2 in next. And it's fairly obvious where they go as well. Oops, and I nearly put that one in the wrong way around. That one in there. That one in there. One, two, three, four. There we go. Again, very nice and flat. That one's up a little bit there. We can just rock that, so we'll just hold it, just reheat that side there, just push that down. And that's nice and flat now. Cut them legs off. Okay, one last big capacitor to go in. And that's our main smoothing can. Okay, that's that in. Again, we can snip those down. Right, and we will put the, we'll actually put the volume control in next. Okie dokie, right. So apart from the actual active elements as in the amplifier ICs, that's pretty much put together. So what I am going to do, I've got a screw stuck in there. I'll pop that screw out of there. There we go. I'm going to assemble these before I actually put them on the board. Let's get these out. Now I'm sure these are fake. I'm sure they're not original manufacturer, but if they work, they work. What I'm actually going to do, this is probably complete and total overkill, but seeing I've got it, he says hunting through, there we go. Now this is Arctic Silver. I mean, this is for CPU heat sinks and stuff like that, but I'm going to just put a tiny little amount. Little dab will do you. Put that away. Any kind of thermal grease would do. It's just I just happen to have that at hand, so I'll use it. So this isn't a mega powerful amplifier or anything. It is only about 10 watts maximum, I think, so that should be fine. Oops, I nearly dropped that screw then. Let's see if this screwdriver is magnetic. It's a Phillips, so it's a little bit easier to get it in the hole. Now, I'm not mashing them down mega tight yet because we are going to want a little bit of movement. I just want them basically in place. Now where's that last screw gone? Oh, there it is. Thought we did have everything. So it does look like the kit actually did come with absolutely everything you need. You can't see what I'm doing again, can you? There we go. So I'm not snugging them down just yet. I'm just getting them so I can still move that about while it's on there. Right. Now it's just a case of getting those pins all to line up with them holes, and just like that. Lovely. That lines up quite nicely. Just push those in there. Let's try and get the other one in at the same time, then we can solder them all together. We'll just try and get those. And if you've ICs have got a few bent pins, you might have to do a little bit of straightening before you can actually get this to line up and go in. I'm having a reasonable amount of luck here actually. And then nearly. It doesn't help that it looks like one of them is slightly out of alignment. Let me try giving that a quick tweak that way. See if that'll help. Okay, those are in. That's in. That's in. And we're in. There we go. I'll give them a quick push down. Just make sure they go right through. I can spin that over. And what I'll do is I'll solder the heatsink in first. Probably need a little bit more solder. This iron should be just about up to the job for doing this. It could do with being a little bit more powerful, but it should just do. Heat that up. Get some solder in there. Yeah, that's worked quite well. I'll do this one. Okay. Again, that's gone. And that one. So all we've got to do now is just solder in the pins of the IC. Okay, there we go, and that's basically it. One thing I have just noticed and just remembered, input there. Now, we need something to go in there. Bit of pin header or something, I think. Let's see what I've got up here. What have we got we could put in there that we can connect our inputs to? That might work quite nicely actually. Let's see if a piece of that would suffice. Right, are the pins, is the pin spacing right? That's the most important one. Yeah, that would work. Right, I'm just going to cut a piece of this off. Get rid of that. Tidy that up. We want 3, don't we? So there we go. Get them all tidy. I mean, this is just kind of like pin header strip just out of my random box, but I think that will work really, really nicely. So we'll connect. I mean, you could just solder like a 3.5E or a piece of screen cable to that with 3.5 mil jack on it or something like that. Now this is going to be slightly tricky because I will have to hold that in place. In hindsight I should have done this earlier, but let's see if we can get that to just There we go. Nope, not quite. What I'm trying to do is literally just get a little bit of solder on there to hold it, because I was holding it with my finger. And then we can go in. Now it's roughly in place. And solder them in one at a time. There we go. Make sure that's flat, it is. And there we are, that's the amp module built up. That wasn't too bad, it didn't take too long, did it? That feels a little bit on the cheap side, but like I said, this thing was dirt cheap. It was definitely under £5. Right, what I will do, I'll just pause the video and I'll get some speakers, and we'll get an AC power supply and what have you, and some music and what have you, and we'll set this thing up and we'll see if one, does it work, and two, what does it sound like. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we are back, and we've got the amplifier there. I have got a cable that I've just made up with some little pins, actually bits of them wire, the leads that we cut off the diodes there, soldered on the end so they'll plug into that connector. So we've got a way of getting 3.5 jack out. I've also got a couple of old Sony bookshelf speakers. These are 4 ohm speakers, and I think they're rated probably about 10 watts or so. They're not massive. They're off an old little Sony bookshelf system, but they should do quite nicely for testing, and they should be reasonably well matched to this amplifier. Let's get the wires off them so we can connect to them. As well. And I've also got some royalty-free music queued up on the computer, so we've got something we can actually play into this and actually not get a copyright strike on. Right, there we go. So we've got our 2 speakers. Can't really see them, but you can see them well enough, can't you? Let me get you up a tiny touch. There we go. Next, oh, I'll tell you one thing we need some way of powering this, don't we? And what I found, now it's not ideal, but it should at least do to see if we're going to get something. I've got a little AC wall wart adapter here. It's good for a 1000 milliamps, so an amp. It's only 9 volts AC, and I think this thing probably is expecting around about 12 volts minimum, but we'll see. It'd be nice to know that it does it is able to run down to 9 volts AC actually. If not, I'll have to go and fish something else out, but this was easy to hand, so that's why I grabbed it. In fact, let's just make sure this thing does actually work, because it is just out of a box of random power supplies. Let's just grab the meter. And we'll set that to AC volts 200. Doesn't matter which way around these go, obviously. Oh, we've got about 11 volts coming out of it, so that's good enough. And it's got a nice long wire, so let's get the wire. So it's going to get to about there, isn't it? Right. Snip that off there. I can still use that for something else. Not that that's particularly a common connector, but that can go into my connectors box. I'll strip this. Okay, now those are already stripped, aren't they, for the speakers? Yeah, lovely. Right, let's get this connected up and we will see see how it's going to play. With a small, that fits lovely. Right, let's put some power up it. In fact, no, let's connect the speakers first. So we've got ground in the centre, that's left out that side. Oh, there we go. Unscrew that. Let's snip this wire down so it's a bit neater. There we go. Same with that one. I'll tell you one thing we didn't do before, which we'll quickly do before we switch this on. In fact, I'll do it once I screw this screw in. What we forgot to do once we'd actually built this amplifier was give them 2 screws there a final little turn just to lock them down. You don't want to turn them too hard because obviously that's really thin aluminium and you'll strip it, but you just want them nicely snug down. And in fact I can just see a little bit of thermal compound just ooze out from either side of it, so they've got a nice thermal conductivity there to their heat sinks. Right, let's finish off connecting these speakers up, and we'll put some power up it, plug it in and see what happens. Okay, that's that side in. Let's do the other side. Come on, in you go. This one's going to be awkward, isn't it? Yeah, because the other wires were all. Let me just tin that wire up because that's not wanting to go in the hole as it is. There we go. That should do it. Yeah, that's still hot now. That went in that time. Making a nice good contact there now. Let's just tidy this one up a little bit. I might have to just tin this as well because that doesn't look brilliant. There we go. In fact, I'll probably have to do the same thing with the connectors that are for the power transformer as well, so they push properly into them connections. Just bare copper wire, it doesn't push in very well. It's dead easy to do that, you know, literally just quickly tin your wires up and it makes your life a lot easier. Let's just do them and we're not struggling in a minute. Let's clean that iron off. There we go, simple as that. We'll get these connected in. Okay, there we go. That's pretty much. Oh, we need to connect this wire as well, don't we? Excuse me. Right, so we've got left, ground and right, so get them in that order. And push them in like that. Okay, that's going to be our connection. Let's make sure the volume is right down. We'll get that wire over towards the laptop. I won't plug it quite into the laptop just this second though. And we will plug this into the power and we will see if this is going to let out the magic smoke. So I heard a little pop from the speakers then. Oh, and my laptop's decided to do daft things. Right, that shouldn't be playing yet. Okay. Little bit of a mains hum when I turn it right up. From both speakers, so it sounds like both speakers are indeed working. Let's turn that down again. We'll get the input cable and yeah, both channels are working. I'll turn that right down. We'll plug that into the laptop. Hopefully I've got that in the right port. Okay, the laptop's playing, so let's turn this up and let's see what this sounds like. Let's just turn it down on the... Just bear with me a sec. There we go. By the way, this is Jazz Music number 1 by Mongo Mongo. I will put a link in my description down to it. That is a very low volume. Let's see. Just starts distorted about there, but wow. Let's just see if I can bring something else up, some other music. But that sounded really, really nice. And just remember, we're only running this at 11 volts AC. We'd probably get a little bit more out of it if, say, we was putting, say, 15 or 16 volts even. I think these are good up to about 18 volts. Especially with the heat sinks on them like that. I think you can get away with about 18 volts AC into this. But no, that sounds nice. Right, let me just try something something else in there. We'll see if we can find something perhaps a bit classical or something. You have to bear with me because this computer's rather slow. Right, here we go. Okay, let's have some royalty-free rock music. Right, I'm just going to try this. It's rock music, no copyright infraction, no copyright music. Like I say again, I'll put a link in the description down to what I'm actually playing. Watch it play a bloody... that should be playing now. Let's have a go. There we go. This is Rock Workout Energetic by Infraction. Kill the Panic. Heat sinks are just getting... I can feel that there's some warmth there, but they're not hot. They're not hot by any way, shape or form. I'm sure if you was really driving this, they might get a little bit toasty. But even on that 11 volt AC, it can go really quite loud. Just starting to clip there. I'm suitably impressed with that. Just shut that off. No, I'm actually really impressed with that. For a super cheap little PCB like that, stereo, and it was definitely under £5. The label says $2 on it. It will be more than that. They just stick that on for customs. But I know it was under a fiver. I know at the time when I bought it, it was like the cheapest kits you could buy, and I was slightly disappointed to find at the time I couldn't actually use it. But since all these years later, what is it, 11 years later, thanks again to searching on the internet, and I finally found the build sheet for it, and it was worthwhile. That is a really nice little stereo amplifier module. I've got a record player in mind actually. It's one that Andy gave me. He gave it me as a scrap player for some to take some dimensions off actually, but I thought it was too nice a player to break up. And it only needs a couple of little minor bits in it. But one of the problems with that record player is that the amplifier's gone in it on one channel, and it uses these horrible 1970s I think the TDA amplifier modules, which you can't really get anymore, and they're only like 3 watts each or 2.5 watts each or something like that. So what I was thinking was I might see how that record player would work with this in there as its power output. There's plenty of space in the actual record player to fit it. The advantage of actually having its own volume control there is I can set this to where I want it and then basically use the main controls on the actual player as they're intended. And if the speakers aren't powerful enough for the amplifier, I can just dial it back a little bit and make sure everything's set up nice and no one's going to put it up to full volume and blow the speakers out or anything. Like I said, the speakers that would have originally gone with it, not that I've got them, but I've got similar type of speakers. They're only rated for like 3 or 4 watts, and this is rated, I think, probably conservatively for around about 10 watts or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. This was just, like I said, I'd found this thing and I wanted to see how it performed and whether it went together okay. So I thought I'd take you guys along for the ride with me. I don't think these are available anymore, unfortunately, this particular kit. However, what I will do is I will leave a link in my description down to the website. Excuse me, I'm choking a little bit. The website where I actually found this information, because what he has got, he's got the scans of the boards, he's got the parts lists and everything, so it would be dead easy to actually recreate this. I mean, the chips are dirt cheap. You can make your own heat sinks out of some scrap ones. The bill of materials on this is not going to be much. It's basically those 2 chips, the connectors, and that pot are your mostly expensive stuff. Everything else is just really cheap passive components. I guess, right, anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed watching me put this thing together. So I will say thanks for watching and goodbye.